Hi, hope you're having a good day today. Today is the day that I began to transfer the stuff from my old Presbyterian planning calendar to my new Presbyterian planning calendar. Now, I know this is old school, and I know most of you probably have electronic calendars now, and there's a couple things that are on my electronic calendar. But for me, it's something about seeing everything written out and put down on paper so that when I am trying to look and see what's going on in August, what's going on in July, I can see all of my dates and I can see how crowded it gets and I can see the open dates, and it's just easier for me. So I've always done this. I've actually tried electronic calendar way long time ago, but I've moved to this now and I like it better. This year, however, this has been my friend. This is the whiteout. Now, some of you don't even know what whiteout is, but this is whiteout. And what has happened this year is I still write everything in pen. There's something about it. I like the permanence of it. And black is the things that are going on in the church. Blue ink is the things that are personal for me, and then red is birthdays. So that's my code. That's what I do. So the problem was, as you know, this last year, from March on, I look back at my calendar and I see more whiteout than I do pen, because it's been a tough year. And a lot of things have been canceled, have been postponed, rescheduled, canceled again. Events have been scrapped. In fact, right now, this very weekend, we are supposed to be doing the Smoking Jazz Festival, and it's canceled. So I've used this whiteout quite a bit to cancel events. And now I'm looking at September 2020 in my new calendar, and October 2020, November 2020, and I'm wondering if I got to get a new whiteout pen. You know, it's funny, the praise band, we would get together on Thursdays to practice and everything for worship, and so we kept that tradition going even though we weren't practicing for worship, and we got on Zoom and we talked with each other, and at one point, right at the beginning of this, early April, we did kind of a little poll where we wanted to see who could best guess when the startup date was going to be for in-person worship again. And I remember at that time, remember this is April, I remember someone saying to me, oh, I think it's not going to be until July. I don't remember who said it, but I remember thinking to myself, oh, you're crazy. Of course we're going to be back in July. Well, we're not. And that uncertainty that we've been feeling has been such a difficult thing for us. This uncertainty about when we will start up, the uncertainty about is that wedding going to happen, the uncertainty about how do we handle it when someone passes, how do we do a funeral, a memorial service, how do we plan out any kinds of family events, how do we plan out church events. So I got to thinking about this word and this idea, this concept of uncertainty, and I realized that there was a period of time for the nation of Israel where uncertainty was probably more common than certainty. If you remember the story of Exodus, the story of Exodus was a time when the people had waited, they had been imprisoned, they had been slaves for 400 plus years. And they began to cry out for God. And God eventually sends them Moses to rescue them. And God, through Moses, and through all of the threats that were given to the leaders of Egypt, finally began the people moving out into the wilderness. And God rescued them when they came to what looked like the end point of the Red Sea with the Pharaoh's army behind them. God led them through the Red Sea. And although the people continued to grumble as they wandered in the wilderness, God eventually, through Moses, led them to the foot of Mount Sinai, where God gave them the law. And Moses came down with those first 10 commandments, and he said to the people, this is the law that God has for you. Will you follow this law? And the people responded that they would. And so Moses consecrated them there at the foot of Mount Sinai. And then he goes back up the mountain so that he could take some time up in the mountain to hear more laws that God would have for the people so that they could live with one another in relationship with one another and with God. And that period of time took 40 days that Moses was up on the mountain. And during that time of 40 days, the people began to get uncertain again. Would Moses come back? Was God still on their side? What was going to happen now? And this is what happens during those 40 days of uncertainty. I'm reading from Exodus chapter 32. When the people saw that Moses was delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered around Aaron, and they said to him, "Come, make gods for us, who shall go before us. As for Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what's become of him." Aaron said to them, "Take off your gold rings that are on your ears, the ears of your wife and your sons and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people took off their gold rings from their ears, and they brought them to Aaron. And Aaron took the gold from them and formed in a mold and cast an image of a calf and said to them, "These are your gods, O Israel, who have brought you out of the land of Egypt." You know, it's that interesting story of how the people in the midst of their uncertainty, even after God had done everything that God had done, this time of uncertainty caused them to begin to lose their faith and their trust in God, and even their trust in the community that they had around us. Give us a God so that we can follow, because we don't know what's happening to Moses. You know, this has been a long time that we've experienced this period where the virus seems to have taken control of so many different things in our lives. And during this time of uncertainty, I've seen people respond in faithful ways, and I've seen people respond in what I'll call unfaithful ways. And I think I can do that because I know I've responded in faithful ways and sometimes in unfaithful ways as well. In some cases, people have said, "Oh, this whole thing is unreal. It's not true," and yet people continue to die. Some people have lashed out at others who don't believe the way they believe about this. We've used masks as a way to divide us. We've grown frustrated of all the different opinions, and we've found ourselves even growing into a deeper and deeper depression because we're uncertain about what's going to happen. And that uncertainty has led us perhaps even to question the presence of God in the midst of all of this. You see, uncertainty is an awful experience to feel. It's an awful emotion to have, but it's also something that can divide us, and it can move us away from a place of faith in the God who rescues us. Now, if there is one thing that we can learn from this story of Exodus, it is that even in the midst of uncertainty, God can be trusted. Because God did send Moses down that mountain. And although Moses was angry and he lost his temper with the people of Israel, God also gently reminded Moses that this covenant would be one that he would keep. It didn't take away necessarily the uncertainty of the people, but God had to teach them what it meant to live with the knowledge that he is present with them even in the midst of their fear and anxiety and uncertainty. So, with confidence and certainty, I use my pen to write dates on this calendar. I'm going to keep this nearby because who knows, I may need to cancel a few things. But I'll tell you what, I need to be certain that God's going to see us through this, and that I am. So, in our time of uncertainty, let us be certain that God is with us and will see us through. Thanks.